Board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games and playtesting, I'm not gonna shout. We are starting off this streaming with a little bit of me singing. And over here, we are all four. We are going to talk a little more, continue all the things that we said 2 weeks ago. We'll talk about things which we know, playtesting in a sense, trying to do it over the internet. There's Alan, Matthew, and Rita too. And hopefully joining us, there can be you. We'll talk about board games and playtesting online is what we're talking about. Board games and playtesting online. I'm not gonna shout. Hello and good morning wherever you are. For people here, I know it's his morning. And
good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Hello, Robert.
Hello,
everyone.
If we were going to do what we did last week, going backwards, that would be Gnitsetjalp, wouldn't it? Really, rather than playtesting.
Gnitsetjalp?
Gnitsetjalp.
Oh, yeah. Playtest. Did we start talking backwards last time?
No, but we're doing it now, aren't we? I mean, we're going back to... Oh, never mind. Forget it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I like it. I like it.
Yes.
Okay, I like the fact that you actually... Did you have to write that down?
I did, actually, yes. Okay. To be honest, I did, yes. It doesn't...
That's still pretty impressive. Well, clearly way ahead of the crowds and more awake than me, certainly. Well... It's easier to set a puzzle than to solve it, so not necessarily more awake than me. But Alan, Matthew, and Rita, well, Alan, Paull, Matthew Dunstan, Rita Modl are joining me for episode 307 of Busy Beats and Board Game Blether. And today we are discussing playtesting. We discussed this 2 weeks ago, but today we're discussing specifically playtesting since lockdown. I mean, I say in 2020, 2021, but you know what I mean. I mean, specifically since you stopped being able to go to see people, which for me was the week after Aircon. So, yeah, that is... Yeah, Alan, let's go round and start talk. Why are you here? Why are we discussing this again? What's your opinion, Alan?
Oh, why am I here? Well, that's a very philosophical question, but yeah, I'm here because I design games and I'm interested in talking about it. We're learning from Matt and Rita about how other people and Bez, how other people design games and playtest. But yeah, we just spent so much time last week talking about playtesting in general. We all thought that we ought to talk about kind of playtesting during the lockdown as a specific item because it's so very, very, very different. And I won't go into the detail yet because we'll come to all that. But so it's a spillover. It's a spillover discussion, I guess.
And as a very quick introduction, just to introduce yourself, people know you. People know what is something you're proud of that people might not know.
Oh, something I'm proud of that people might not know.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't mentioned before. Maybe I don't know.
I mean, you're allowed to have mentioned it before, but
well, I mean, I'm quite proud of Airfix Battles. I helped to design Airfix Battles, and I'm quite proud of that. And I'm particularly proud of the fact that it's got a massively active Facebook group. There's 1,000 people on the Facebook group for Airfix Battles, which, as a proportion of people who've bought it, is pretty high actually. And they have done more work on Airfix Battles in terms of fan-based cards and rules and stuff. They've done more on it than I've done. So
Wow. This is amazing.
there are hundreds of fan-based cards for Airfix battles. It's amazing. Yeah. So thanks for that. Anybody out there who's been doing Airfix battles work, keep it up. It's great.
Amazing. And Matthew, why are you here? And what's something that you are proud of?
I'm here because I'm contractually obliged to be. No, I'm just joking. I'm here because I like to talk about games. It's nice to be able to catch up with. This is the new kind of convention scene, you know, where you would catch up with all the normal people. It's Bez's convention every week or every couple of weeks. What am I proud about? Does it have to be game based, or does it could be
anything?
Anything. Well, I guess I'm proud that I was once a lines person at the Australian Open, so I was a line umpire, and also at the Davis Cup and things. So I've done it for some bigger players well, a while ago now. So they're not the current players, but you know, 10, 15 years.
The biggest players of history.
Yeah, of that time. Yeah.
Mm. And Rita, what's going on with you?
Yes, I'm here because you invited me. But also it's so good to having a date where wiederholen.
Like a schedule or something.
Yeah, a schedule and an upcoming date in this time, because usually in this time I don't have that much dates, and it's so good to talk about board games because this is what I like. And yeah, what I'm proud of, I'm very proud of having a dog. I'm having a really cute dog, and I would say he's the cutest dog in the world. Yes. And why
you don't want to denigrate all the other dogs, though. I mean,
I don't know. He's very cute. And why I'm proud of, because when I decided to getting a dog and telling people that, I would say 90% of the people say no. Don't get a dog. No. It's only problems and so on. And I did it, and it was one of my best decisions in my life.
Well, that sounds awesome. It sounds like going against recommendations is just sometimes worthwhile. And you know what? I'm going to keep with that theme, and I'm going to say that one of the things that I'm proud of is having cycled from Glasgow to somewhere north of London, by which I don't mean Paisley, because Paisley is also north of London. But it was south of Birmingham, north of London. It was in that region. I was trying to get all the way down to London. I was maybe 20, 30, 50. I was some number of miles short. And I had a flat tire, and I was like, you know what? It doesn't feel worth doing this. I'm just going to take a train the last couple of hours. And so then, but yeah, I'm quite proud of that. And going against, wow, that is a cute dog.
That is a cute dog. Yes, I'll give you that one.
I was going to say, you should just make Rita larger, just for the rest of the stream. Just just have to, or maybe the dog can have a separate like
separate window.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
And hello to Nicholas Straccia, who tells us helpfully that
very well behaved.
Wiederholen means a repeat, having a recurring meeting, so it's a recurring meeting. And Alex asks, do you mean people like Karlovic?
Yeah, Ivo Karlovic. Yeah, I did actually. I actually think he was a bit earlier, but I was a ball person for him. But John Isner was also a really large tennis player who I did. His wingspan was almost enough to cover the whole court. Essentially, it was quite incredible. Anyway, so.
But that sounds
not a tennis podcast. Yeah.
But no, it's really nice to hear a tiny bit, just a wee snippet about what everyone's been doing in their life. And thank you for joining us, Xate. It is lovely to have you lurking. And let's.
I think we don't have to play test tennis, do we? Because I think it already works, tennis as a game. Just
did you see the tennis game? Did you see the tennis game in Essen last year? Did anyone see that? There was there's like a flicking. It's a French board game.
Oh, wait, last year or 2019?
Sorry, 2019. The last time Essen was on.
Okay.
And it's a flicking game, and the board is a tennis court, and you have to flick, and basically where you flick it, you get points. The more in the corner, you get more points, and you're either trying to make it so that the opponent can't return the ball, like they put it out, they flick it out, or whatever, or you get to 15 points and you've won because you've made enough. I can't remember what it's called, but it's really fantastic. Actually, it really captures tennis. Flicking it. Sorry.
That is pretty cool. And Robert says, I often imagine what would happen if established games were presented to playtesters and what presumably those playtesters would end up saying, because it's that kind of thing where people say, if chess was presented as a game today, it probably wouldn't get through playtesting. It would be like, whoa, there's too much complexity in here, too many different types of pieces for what's going on. But why is the scores 15, 30, 40? Why not just 1, 2, 3? Which I kind of agree with.
And why deuce? What the hell is that? Where's that coming from? Deuce after 40? It's really weird. Yes.
Yeah, I don't feel
Tradition.
like
Very
things
good. I like
getting
that,
grandfathered in is a good reason for things. I feel like this is where you get weird.
I tell you, speaking of tennis, one thing, we were set a problem way back when I did some systems courses. We were set a problem of modeling a game of tennis in Excel, which, because this was the first year they did that course, they thought was actually a reasonable problem. It turns out it's really very, very difficult to model because of the deuce problem, because it can go on forever, technically. So it turns out that tennis is quite hard to model in Excel.
Well, of course, Wimbledon can actually, in the actual way Wimbledon's set up, the matches can go on forever. The longest match was 12 hours or something. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah. So if you want a nice challenge, and you're good at Excel, there's a thing in Excel you can do. You can run modeling stuff in Excel. Look it up. It's in the help somewhere. That's a really nice problem to try to solve. I can let you know the solution if I can look it up. But,
there's definitely something interesting about games and how long they can go when you look at cricket. When you look at tennis, but then you look at American football and how American football is designed so well around a TV kind of spectator sport because it's got these breaks built in and everything, whereas football, by which I mean for our American friends, I'm talking about soccer, the fact that, there's no golden goal, and in theory, the penalties could go on forever. I mean, they never have, but they could go on forever.
Also, we have this weird thing. We have the weird thing at the end of the season. It's not the final games that lead to the winner of the Premiership. The final games are playoffs for playoffs for the championship. So the first two teams get promoted automatically, and then we have this massive build-up and the Wembley match for basically third place. What can you imagine Americans ever designing anything where the most important game of the season is for third place in the second tier down? That's crazy. But I suppose that's the epitome of English design, actually, I think.
Well, it's funny as you say design. I feel like I have to mention the 99% Invisible episode where they covered the design of basketball's countdown clock and how that was developed. So for those who don't know, no. Honestly, as this is actually quite relevant to game design in a way, it really is about design and about how before they had this problem in the early days of basketball that you didn't have to do anything, teams would just, you know, they'd score a basket and then just hold the ball for the rest of the match because there was no impetus for them to actually shoot again. And then they realized they had to have a shot clock. And actually then it details the steps they went through to refine that, and, you know, how long it should be and how should it be implemented. And, you know, it was essentially playtesting. You know, there would be problems, they'd propose a solution. There would be ways that people would get around it. They would alter it. And, yeah, so check it out. I'll look it up and I'll throw the link somewhere.
But I mean, and yeah, the previous link, if you're watching, is for the game that Matthew was talking about. And a quick hello to Shitapopu. It's lovely to have you join us. Thank you very much. And Alex says that third place championship playoff is the most lucrative sporting prize in football, I think. And Start Player Roberts mentions the history of the countdown clock, where they've got the whole 60 seconds, but they only use half of it because in early tests they didn't know how long they wanted to use, so they had the whole clock, but then they only used 30 seconds of it. I mean, even if you aren't going to use 30 seconds, though, surely your people are familiar with the way that the clock works, so it should be 30 seconds for half a face anyway. I would imagine that would be more visually intuitive because people are familiar with one revolution being 1 minute on a second timer.
And can we just talk about boxing? So people pay a lot of money to watch the fight, and after 2 minutes, bam, it's over. What? So.
Yes, good point. There ought to be something done about that.
Well, it means that we should be in the business of organising boxing. That's where the money is, you know, not in actually fighting.
I mean, did you hear, I think it might have been Jeff Engelstein on Game Tech on a recent Ludology episode talking about basketball. I might be misattributing the source of this, but there was someone talking about how basketball, some people are saying, okay, whatever the score is at this point in time, you're going to add X number of points to it. So maybe if the score is, because basketball scores are pretty high, if it's like 95-60, then you set the score as being, okay, the target score is 105. And then whoever reaches 105 first is the winner. Now that means that the team is still motivated to go off and score for the final few minutes because that's how they win. Whereas the other team, there's still the opportunity because until they've actually made that pitched, it can go on forever, but both teams are trying to score, and it just reminds me of Go, which has been around for thousands of years, and just in the past 50 years, I believe it has changed the rules of Go at the tournaments level, where you have the Komi, which is how many points you give white to make a fair thing. And Stream Element sets it stretching time, and Tony Boydell, hello Tony, who is coming in to see. Women promised a long session, and being disappointed by an early finish is a tale as old as time. Okay. And Alex said, I also listened an interesting variation of basketball where, yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly. So, shall we get on to our... This is meant to just be the intro. And so, yeah, we've gone on a bit of a tangent, but let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So yesterday I played a couple of games of Biddebell with I think we played 3 games, like maybe one was 3-player, 2 of them were 4-player. I think that there might be a slight issue, which I'll talk to Alex and Xate separately a bit more about, potentially where the dominant strategy is just to focus on one suit exclusively. And sure, the game's interesting in collapsing, but anyway, for those who don't know the game, that will probably mean nothing. It's a game with a market, you're putting down cards, the letters determine which order you take a card from the middle for, and at the end of the game, you've got a personal collection in front of you, you've got 3 cards in your hand, and you multiply the suits in your hand that are left and the suits in front of you to get your final score. And I think there needs to be something more to it, so you don't just want to get ideally free of a suit in your hand and 5 on the table, because 15 seems to be the maximum possible score. But that was the highlight. I did a bit of drawing yesterday. I drew some cats. Let me make myself bigger now. I drew some cats. Here's a cat. Here's a cat that's kind of trippy that I did yesterday. And here's a cat that I did very quickly yesterday. And then I drew some resolutions just to remind myself of my resolutions. I've got these in, and then I managed to do this today. So what this means is I need to walk and don't look at my screens until I've actually gone out for my morning walk. I'm going to try and, be better with oral hygiene and healthier eating. And these are my projects that I'm planning to finish by start and progress on by the end of the month. So yeah, drawing letters and starting my new book that I've talked about. But yeah, cool. That is me. Let's go clockwise in the same order, and I'll shuffle people slightly.
My highlights. Oh yes. Last night we had a really good curry. Charlie cooked a Rogan Josh, so that was really good. Very, very tasty curry. Thoroughly recommended. But in games,
you recommend coming over to?
I recommend coming over to us and getting food from Charlie, because she cooks really good food. I'm very, very lucky. I obviously married her for her cooking, or something. But yesterday I actually had a good play testing day. Yesterday, I played War of the Three Sanchos, which is a game that Dave Mortimer's designing for the Pocket Campaign series, and it's a 1 to 3 player. So we're busy testing each of the 3 solitaire versions, because the War of the Three Sanchos, for those that don't know, this massively well known took place between 1065 and 1067, and it was Aragon versus Castile versus Navarre, and of course, as you'd expect, all the leaders were called Sancho. In fact, they were all descendants of Sancho the Great, who I'm sure everyone here will remember. And the person who actually took over in the end was the nephew, I think, of one of the Sanchos, and he was also called Sancho. So there's no confusion there. But I was testing the Navarre variant, and it seems to work pretty well. It was quite. I did manage to win, which I was disappointed in, because I'd like, the first time you play a solitaire, you really want to lose. But we'll toughen it up, I think, and make it a bit more challenging. And then in the evening, I played the Castle War with Rob Harper. Rob's designing this for our for our Pocket Campaign series, and that was a really good playtest. This is a game. It's a mainly card game, and it's set in the anarchy between Stephen and Matilda in the 12th century, and you're, funnily enough, fighting over castles. And I won't go into too much detail, but that's really a very interesting and fun game. And we're now looking at the precise details of what goes on the cards, and making sure that it's as engaging as possible right from the start. That's my highlights.
Certainly an important thing to test, and so yeah, well done.
Okay, so I've played Pictures for the first time, the game which won Spiel des Jahres, and I always wondered why did you play Pictures? No? Okay, so
not yet. Nick Smith of the Ludicrous told me that it felt like it felt like a open source game, like it should be almost a, what's the word I'm looking for, a parlor game. But I think there's definitely value in supporting this sort of thing. Like even in the case of Skull, where you could play it easily without the components, I think there's value in supporting, the design that someone's come up with.
Yeah, I liked it, but I wondered why the pictures in the middle of the table didn't change the whole game. So maybe next time I play it in my own way. I don't know. And the second one I played for the first time ever, though. But without the tree, and I was very disappointed because there was no tree, and I didn't know that this is just an expansion. So there are different ways where you can play the game. I liked it, and because I like worker placements, and it was beautiful because he had the Kickstarter edition with all the cute animals and with the golden coins and so on. So it was beautiful. It was very, very beautiful, but it worked. It was good, but I've seen there I haven't seen before. I have seen before, so there is not something very new, but the game is good and it looks beautiful. So it's a feel-good game, I think. And my highlight, I have a highlight because I told you I have a cross trainer, and that is not enough because I also needed rollerblades, and so I bought rollerblades. But the rollerblades and the cross trainer I didn't use yet because I don't know, but I have it. It's good to it's feeling good to have it, you know.
Prepared for every eventuality, you know.
Yes.
If you need to suddenly run a marathon and need to train, you know, quickly, you know, and you're ready.
Every day we played it with 4-person.
And Alex says, I think the interesting in Everdell, which I didn't like, was how the players can take a wildly different number of turns. But no, those are 2 games that I've not had a chance to play myself. It's always the case, isn't it? Games that you want to play and there's just not enough time to get. Especially in this day and age, it's not like you can just go to your board game club and say, hey, excellent, you got the new hotness, I can sit down and play it with you. Or, hey, we can go to Cannes, where I'm not going to say Essen because that's Essen. I know you don't have, I have a stand and I'm kind of busy with that, but Cannes is my opportunity to just wander around. And yeah, it was actually, for me, I really enjoy, I played more, naturally, I was about to, I think I might have played more games at, no, that's, I was almost going to say that I played more games at Nuremberg than I played at Essen, which is kind of not the way that you would think of things, given the vibe of those shows. But yeah, just wandering around and having like a couple of turns of a game, being like, okay, I get what this is about. And so you kind of get a sense of that company and everything. Do you know what I mean? But sorry to distract. Matthew, what are you all about? What
am I about? Again, a deep philosophical question.
Yeah.
I was checking.
Bones.
Yes, exactly. I was checking my app about what I played. I actually haven't played that much, to be honest, over the last week. And actually, my highlight isn't really. It's not a highlight for me, but I just feel like I should share it because I'm sort of a part of it. So my fiance runs a film museum. They founded a film museum in Prague, which I may have talked about before. I'm not sure. And it was just 3 students. They started it together about 5 years ago. It's been very successful. And over the weekend in the Czech Republic, they had the Czech version of the Oscars, which are called the Český lev, or the Czech Lions. And they won a Czech lion for their museum. And they got to go to the actual, like, televised. They were on television, and it was they get to go to a fancy thing and wear beautiful clothes, and I just that was I'm living vicariously through Teresi, so and obviously very proud. So that was a big thing over the weekend, because they had to do a lot of precautions in order to have an in-person event and a lot of testing and etc. I couldn't go and things, but anyway, that I guess that's my sort of recent highlight. And yeah, really, and I'll throw the link if people are interested there. They've done amazing work to make a very interactive museum, and I'm working. We've made a board game with Andrew Harmon. For some might know from Yay Games, we've worked together and we've made a game for the museum to look at film, like try to put film editing into a game to teach people to come to the museum about film editing in a game. So yeah, anyway, otherwise, no, I don't have a lot of highlights. I've got back on the streaming schedule, which is nice myself. So that's my own personal thing. I had a little bit of a break. I can't really complain with Bez in the same conversation. But for me, it was yeah. But anyway, that's kind of my recent highlights.
No, it's an interesting one. I've been looking ahead to episode 500 because after a short poll on Twitter, it sounds like people would prefer the long episodes to be on a Saturday, which means that the first episode needs to be on a Friday, which means, and I've been kind of thinking, okay, do I take 1, 2? And I think, yeah, after episode 400, I'm going to take 2 weeks off, but I'm going to schedule it so that those, anyway. But no, you do need a break sometimes, but it's how different people work. For me, it's like, it invigorates me, and I just love chatting. And hello, Dina, let's move on. It is lovely to see you, and let's talk about the questionably quick questions. So if anyone has any questions, not about playtesting, then I give you about 2 minutes to get those questions right in. Let's go in this order. So let me quickly ask, where are you? What time is it? Here it is in Glasgow. It is 10:31. Rita.
Hi, I live near Munich and it's 11:31.
I am in Warboys upstairs in my home office, and it's well, my clock says it's 10:33.
Hmm.
And I'm in Prague, and it's also 11:32 on my.
So can I take Valkyrie-Dina? Where are you?
Valkyrie-Dina. Valkyrie-Dina is in Finland.
Oh, right.
Cool.
Okay, so we've got one questionably quick question. Okay, this is the one. If you were given 12 magic beans that would grow anything you wanted, whoa, this is a big question. It would grow anything you wanted. Like, can it grow metaphysical concepts, or is it only growing physical stuff? That's what I'm wondering. You're shaking your head because I'm getting too deep into this.
It says anything, yeah.
Matthew, what are you thinking? You're shaking your head.
No, it's just once you open up to metaphysical, it's just some constraint is useful, as we all know in game design. Some constraint is useful, you know. The answer as you wish. I need to think.
Can I say the obvious one then?
World peace?
Obviously, well, I know I'd obviously want to grow some more magic beans, so I have an infinite number of magic beans to start with. Obviously, you know.
This is always the point which is not allowed. You know, when there's a genie and it gives you 3 wishes, and you say the first wish I want to have as much as wishes I can get. It's not allowed. You know.
Yeah, it says anything you wanted. You see, I'm a rules lawyer.
You have to be able to harvest it. It can grow emotions. I think that given that Alex is not decrying us, you know, growing more magic beans, I'm going with that rules lawyering. I mean, we have 12 magic beans. If each bean can grow one thing, but maybe each bean can only grow one thing. So if a bean grows a bean, then you don't get any increase in beans. It's just that the beans turn into a bean. Do you know
but why don't you grow? But what if you could grow a bean plant?
That is a question. Yeah. Anyway, but we'll only keep growing magical beans that grow magical beans.
Oh dear, yes, that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So you get
if you make a wish, to have infinite wishes, but it only gives you one wish, you haven't actually gained anything. So yeah.
Okay, I only use 3 of them.
Okay.
So the first one is so that you can have emotions. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The first bean is always been lucky and, you know, or happy.
I mean, it's unclear from the comments because Robert says, can you harvest an emotion? And Alex says, no, exactly, Robert. So I'm not sure what the constraints are. Like, can you grow a castle? Can you harvest a castle? Because if it's you have to be able to harvest it, then does that mean that it has to also be small? I
don't think so. I think it's magic. Come on.
It's magic, yeah. So
I like the Glück. I like the Glück. So in German, Glück, because it means luck and happiness. Is there a differentiation? How do you use that? How do you contextualize happiness versus luck?
Happiness is just feeling good, and luckiness is when you have luck. So you can be happy although you don't have luck.
But how do you contextualize that when you're using the word Glück in German? That's always puzzled me. Sorry, we're going into. We did this last time, didn't we? Went into the meaning of German words. Sorry, I may have gone down the rabbit.
So what we've really discovered is that Alan is really all about languages.
Okay, so let me just finish my idea. So the first one is for happiness, the second one is for healthy, and the third one is for money. So then I have the three things I need: happiness, healthy, and money, and I don't need all the other beans. So I can give them away.
That's great, because that means three other people can have the same.
Yes, especially you, and you can have.
Well, there's 12 magic beans. We can each us have.
Do it. Excellent.
Yeah, I like this. If we are going to move on with this conversation, I am going to accept Rita's thing of health, wealth, and happiness. That seems like a good thing. Matthew, are you on board with this?
I'm on board.
You sound reluctant.
I don't know. I just find these questions always a bit. I don't know. It's just.
Okay, let's move on. Let's get back somewhat on to. Let's talk about a brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? And today I would like to talk about playtesting, but not just playtesting online. Now, why is playtesting online brilliant? I'm going to struggle with this. I'm going to take the obvious thing, which is that, you can reach people across space. That's basically it. I mean, across distance. So even if, Tom Cauldron is maybe in Sheffield or wherever Tom Cauldron might be, Tom Cauldron can still join for a game. And even if Alex is somewhere else and I'm somewhere else and three other people are somewhere else, we were able to playtest Bidabel and Invisibel online. So that's the brilliant thing, crossing distance boundaries. Rita, what's a brilliant thing about testing online?
So actually, I don't like online testing, but I have to do it. So the good thing is that we all have cameras, and that we can play some games. We can play, and you don't even feel like it's online. For example, a roll and write, where is more like a solo modus. You can play together, but you don't need to be on the same table. Yeah.
Alan?
Yeah, I agree with the distance one. And I think I'm a little bit more positive than Rita in that, yes, it's the only way we can do it at the moment. But it is the way we do it. We can do it at the moment. And it is a salvation of playtesting in the current environment. I mean, for Kingmaker, I've had a 4-player game with one person from the East Coast of the US, one person from the West Coast of the US, and 2 people from the UK. And we could all play. Admittedly, we've got to coordinate the timing, obviously, but it does work, and that's really good. And just because you're a long distance away doesn't mean you're the person who's going to have the tech problems, which is another difficulty. But no, it's good. I think that the fact that we can do it at all is great. Actually, yeah.
And Robert says, I've not spent ages cutting up paper and putting it in card sleeves. I've loved that. I've been able to put a game in front of far more people than I had access to locally.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a bit with more on Rita's side, I think, and I said this before, that it makes you realize how fortunate, well, at least I was personally before the pandemic, in terms of, that not everyone has access to in-person playtest groups and good groups like that, and I was fortunate to have it. So you feel the absence even more. But yeah, I think the ability to quickly prototype things and not have to print things out, that would be my one thing that I would give to online playtesting, certainly.
So this isn't like the big list of virtues. I mean, sure, I love Dina's statements. That's okay. Dina's able to surprise a child. That's, yeah, sure. And then overcoming distance. That's a thing that we might actually want to do even after this. I asked in Card and Board Game Designers Guild, and someone said that what they've done is they've got a physical prototype for playtesting in their own house, and that's what they do for the first version. And then once it's done, then they make a digital version to playtest with strangers. And that seems like, okay, you're really taking advantage of what's available there. But it feels like here with the four of us, what we're basically saying is that we can do it, and that's the advantage, that we can't do playtesting otherwise. That, yeah, we have access to people, but and it doesn't matter with the distance. And sure, access to people, even if I could go to Royal Festival Hall, I could see an argument to say that, yeah, but you're always playtesting with the same 25 people. I mean, it is still a relatively small group, whereas if you go to playtesting online, it's a bigger group. But I mean, again, I am insanely privileged because in Cambridge, how many people were, and actually I am going to say, yeah, this is us now going on to the main topic, and feel free to comment, ask questions from follow, and yeah,
But it's only 11:15. It's far too early for the main topic, surely.
No, I mean, I'm trying to see if there is more of a positive stance about this, because when all this goes away, I am privileged in London. London is a big, dense city, not just in terms of its geographical size, but in terms of its population density. I really adore that. I enjoy living in a big city where people are passing through. That, yeah, you playtest that. We had, what was it? In North London, Central and North London alone, there was a long time where we had, in a typical 4-week period, I want to say 8, 9, 10, 11 playtests in a typical 4-week period. And across that, if I went to all of them, I might get access to 35, 40 different people. And that's a big privilege. Whereas in a typical Friday playtest, we might have, I don't know, between 9 and 12 people coming along. I mean, in Cambridge, how many people did you have at a typical session?
I don't know. It's sort of 8 to 10, something like that,
yeah.
Maybe.
I was going to say,
it's actually not that far away.
Could I give you a more positive slant, though?
Sure. Yes, please do.
If you're playtesting online, you can get access to people from in a lot of cases, for some of us, a primary market, which is the United States. Without that, I mean, I was thinking just for Kingmaker. Okay, Kingmaker, you'd think it's a very English product, but actually the main market is the United States. So I have access to players from the United States. So I've got a group who are playing their blind testing in California. Admittedly, you could post things out to them. You could post a physical copy out, but here I can get them to play online, and we can make changes really easily, and they can give feedback online, and that's actually quite valuable. It's potentially slightly easier than having to make loads and loads and loads and loads of physical copies.
But that's also something, I mean, you being a publisher is slightly different, isn't it, Alan? Also, like that kind of access to the primary market is sort of keener for a publisher than it is necessarily for design.
Well, yes, but then for Kingmaker, I'm not the publisher. I'm just a developer, and it's still vital, I think, for Kingmaker to have access to.
Oh no, absolutely, no,
absolutely.
So I have also one positive point about that, but it's also after this Corona shit that we are forced to learn how this online thing works. So, and after COVID, we are able to make appointments with publishers or something like that online. So of course we are all going to the fair, but sometimes it's not possible to getting appointments on a fair or something like that. And so we learn to connect each other through online. So I think this is one positive thing about that.
And that sorts of accessibility, not having to travel, that's a big thing that we can't overlook. There is definitely a barrier in that. Firstly, I mean, let's just admit, playing online is not as good as having the people in the room and you watching. That's never going to be as good. But I mean, it's easier to do. You don't have to travel. Yes, when I say it's easier to do, there's a technological barrier. You have to work out how to put things into Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia or whatever, or make an incredibly light game that you can playtest, whether it's a roll and write or something that is just a parlor game. But once you've overcome that barrier, then suddenly you don't have to travel. You don't have to worry about the time. You don't have to worry about getting home. You don't have to worry about safety issues. You don't have to worry about it. And yeah, the fact that there is online playtesting 5 days a week, normally admittedly at a very late time if you're UK based, that is pretty almost incredible. If anyone has anything to say, Alex mentions maybe it's just where Alex is in their life or design journey, but Alex has playtested far more digitally than Alex ever managed to in real life. Nicholas has a bunch of uncut cardboard piled up as well that I didn't need to get to as often as I would have. Not immediately seeing them as a raw resource, it helps me with getting rid of cardboard boxes more easily. So Nicholas is saying that you don't need to have this big stack of, maybe in the old days you might have even had cereal boxes which you just then make into game boards or whatever. And Nicholas goes on, I moved very close to a bunch of design and playtesting hubs during the pandemic, but it's been like hanging outside of a closed bakery without ever getting to come in. I'm eager to get to network with the groups over here once it becomes available again. So
3 cheers to that one.
Let me come up with the first question that I wanted to ask, and let's go round and let's take a step back. How have you adapted to online playtesting? How are you continuing to make games? Are you continuing to make games? Because I'm going to give my own story very quickly, not super quickly, but in a relatively quick fashion. But then everyone can go clockwise. So after the pandemic, we didn't know if Friday playtest was going to happen. Oh, who popped in? Oh, hello, Yoda. Lovely to see you. So after Aircon, David Brain, a couple of other people and I were chatting, well, do we go to Royal Festival Hall? Do we not go to Royal Festival Hall? What do we do? And I decided if we are able to, I think I will, but I'm not sure anyway. Royal Festival Hall closed down. We decided to have a video meeting. We met up, we play tested some things, we tried to do some stuff on camera. We tried to do some stuff that it wasn't tabletop simulator, it wasn't Tabletopia, trying to keep an element of that social aspect, saying, yeah, we're going to do it in an hour and a half slot rather than maybe 2 hour slots, where you get a bit of time and then we chat for a bit, we have a quick bathroom break, then we do a bit more testing. And in our games that we were testing was games that could fit that format. We were testing different games. For sure, the fact that I started trying a few different cell games, the fact that I was experimenting with roll and write and seeing, I think Andrew January who made a kaiju game that I played a couple of times, and there was definitely interesting stuff happening. But eventually, after a few months, when it was clear that this was going to last a while, I realized, hey, you know what, this just isn't something that I can stomach. And it was at a certain point where there weren't that many people coming. I realized that for me, it's not enough to just do this over video. I need to have that tactile aspect. I need to have that social aspect to it as well. And for me, that's a bigger deal. And I stopped that, and that was about the time that I started this, pretty much. So, yeah, I pretty much decided, you know what, I'm going to allow myself to not worry about making a game until the end of the pandemic, until I can get together with people. And once I've gotten together with people, I'm going to hopefully, now I have found myself building up a wee bit more energy, I might go into digital playtesting, but I know that Inside the Box wants me and Tiz to be testing Seize the Power, but I also know that we've explained the situation. I've said, look, I personally cannot deal with this, and we've been, okay, that's fine, we will delay it. And that's entirely, I would say that's 60% me, 30% Tiz, and yeah, 10% SciTB in this situation, let's be honest. But yeah, this is me. I've just kind of said, yeah, I'm going to make up games for Tabletop Tuesday, but nothing beyond that. And yeah, I did a thing for a game jam. That was fun, but I'm not planning to, yeah, go down the rabbit hole because it's just too aggravating for me. I've even playing other people's things on Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator. It's just, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed playing March of Progress on Tabletopia. It was fine, but I wouldn't want to do that regularly. Sorry. That's me. That's my story. Rita.
So, yeah, I also don't like playtesting online, but I had to do it because my other job, photography, was also down. So I had to do something. And so the only solution was, okay, I have to do this online. So, and lucky me, I work with the agency White Castle in Austria, and they have an online playtesting group every week, and we also playtest during the week online. So this was for me a good thing to learn it and to get some work. So because if I'm not designing a game and if I don't make photos anymore, so what I'm doing? Sport? So this was the only solution for me, and I had to do it. So for me, it still doesn't feel good because everything goes very, very slowly, and it takes so much energy to work playtest online, and it's very hard, but it's the only way, and I need to do it, but I also want to do it because I want to design games.
Yeah, needs must, for sure. Alan?
Yeah, my situation was slightly different in that when this all happened, Charlie and I had retired, we're just retiring. So we didn't have the need to get out there and work, which puts a whole different complexion on it. After Aircon, we didn't go to Aircon because by that time we'd already decided we did not want to mix physically. So we didn't go to Aircon. So basically, at at that point, probably partly influenced by our age, we decided that we would just stop. So I just stopped. I stopped playtesting, really. In the early part, I just didn't do any playtesting. But it quickly became apparent that really life has to go on. So in the middle period, if I can say, I just thought, what's the easiest and quickest way of getting some online testing done? But it's particularly for Kingmaker, because I didn't want Kingmaker to grind to a halt. But Kingmaker's got a huge amount of components. I mean, it's, well, the full blown thing is like 300 cards, all different. It's got 200 or 300 counters and pieces. So I mean, it's huge. So the absolute key for me to get into it at all was, what's the easiest and quickest for me as a designer to put stuff online? So something with a decent workflow and get it done. So that's why I used Tabletopia initially. So get that done. Now later on, I started looking at, which is like really literally only over the last 2 or 3 months, really, I suppose, is what's best for players. Because I figured, actually, I don't know how long this is going to go on for. Let's now try and look at what's best for players rather than what's best for me in terms of getting material online. And so I branched out from Tabletopia. I did look at Tabletop Simulator in the early days, and the workflow for Tabletop Simulator was very, very, very difficult. Tabletopia I found quite easy in terms of the workflow. It make some assets, upload the assets. You've got all of these objects which you can use, stick them all into a setup, create the game table, they go. So, and I understood all that. Tabletop Simulator, it's got some initial hurdles. Firstly, what's this with a server? You have to create a server. I don't want to create a server. I'm trying to create a game, not a server. But they use technical terminology when they don't need to. And this happens quite a lot on Tabletop Simulator. I think it's designed by developers, software developers, for software developers. And that's not what we want. We want something which is designed for designers and game developers and players. So that's some of the first hurdles were those ones where I couldn't understand. Why workshop? What the hell? Why do you need a workshop? I don't want a workshop. I want to make some games and put them on a table and get players to play them. That metaphor is the one that you need for it. So, but my late reaction to this is Tabletop Simulator is much, much easier for players. It's just much better. It's much more configurable. So I've now got Kingmaker on Tabletop Simulator as well as on Tabletopia, and I've got somebody else who's putting it on Vassal for me as well. So we've actually got Kingmaker on 3 different platforms, and that's quite interesting. I didn't think that we'd ever get to that stage. So for this is just for playtesting. So we'll have an experience of all 3. So that's my early, my middle, and my late lockdown period review, if you like. And actually, one of the main things, this is very distracting. One of the main things, thank you very much. Yeah, one of the main things about this, in terms of online gaming platforms, what is it with this 3D malarkey anyway? Who needs 3D for tabletop games? We're talking about games which are primarily 2D. I mean, the vast majority of board games that we play are 2D. We don't need to be able to flip the table over. We don't need to be able to drop stuff on the freaking floor.
This is sounding a bit like man shakes fist at clouds time. Like, you know.
It's a bit, isn't it? Yeah. So that's one of the reasons I didn't like Tabletop Simulator, because it implements the physics, so that if you accidentally drop
Tabletopia implements the physics as well, though.
Yes, but with Tabletopia, if I drop, I can use the whole playing area over. If I accidentally move something off the table in Tabletopia, it doesn't drop on the floor in the way of physics. In Tabletop Simulator, it does. Dina mentions
the one situation where physics might actually matter.
Yes, but there are lots where it don't.
something in
I agree with
a
that.
physics platform is going to be so different to flicking anything. I mean, could you make Ice Cool to think, you know, I'm just thinking of that. It's a good, solid flicking game. That's a great game, right? Could you actually design that with our current situation? I mean, well, remotely. Could you do that virtually? I would just say no. Like, I just feel like it's...
The other site that we haven't mentioned, which I would mention just briefly, is ScreenTop. ScreenTop is a 2D like Tabletopia, Tabletop Simulator, or 3D, but ScreenTop allows you to put relatively small prototypes on, and it gives you a lot of flexibility and is easier. I haven't actually put anything of mine on, but I've used it with a couple of people, and that seems to be what I would probably choose for my two-dimensional games. Yeah.
Let's get into the discussion of which thing is best in just a moment. And just to catch up slightly with the chat, Dina says, I love playtesting and I've been able to connect with so many game designers. That has onboarded me later to assist on solo mode or marketing consultations. So work and personal life sense, playtesting online has been great for me. Alex mentions that, yeah, once you've got the images, it's not a huge job to put it up onto all the services. For me, if you've got the images as separate files, as you've got to do if you are printing, then, hey, Tabletopia is really easy. If you've got Tabletop Simulator, you've got to kind of stitch them all together. It's not a big deal, but you do have to have some stuff that you might not have. And Robert agrees with you. Robert likes Tabletop Simulator for testing and making a quick prototype, but would always sooner play a game on another two-dimensional site. Alex mentions dice rolling is more satisfying with 3D, and the workflow for uploading to ScreenTop, Alex found a bit scary. I mean, we can talk about Nandeck and that sort of thing, which is, wow. I mean, I don't even use... there's some things that I should learn. It would be useful to learn how to use, even if it's really for people who know coding. And yeah, that's the thing. Like, some willingness to learn that coding can definitely help a lot. But how have you been, Matthew? How has your life changed since March last year?
Wow, there's a very well, it's changed probably a bit more than, I mean, maybe there's a little closer to your experience as well. I've moved to a completely different country, essentially. You know, instead of going to Aircon, I chose to fly to the Czech Republic. That was literally the choice. I flew on the Friday morning. You know, I was going to Aircon, and then they were announcing that they were shutting the borders, and I quickly booked a flight to the Czech Republic and haven't been back since. So yeah, it's a lot to change. And at the same time, I'm also changing my job. So I'm now formally part-time at my research job, and I'm formally part-time as a game designer. So you know, there's a lot of I think this playtesting thing and the virtual thing for me is wrapped up in a lot of other feelings about you know, game design as a profession and trying to you know, we've talked a little about it, like schedules and structure and things like that, you know, and I'm someone who actually doesn't do very well without that kind of structure, and for me, going into a lab every day was very useful because, you know, you see other people and you have meetings, and you know, there's kind of all these things that get you into the zone, and sitting in front of a computer does not lead to me. That just leads me to play a lot of games essentially on my computer. But anyway, but I think that the virtual playtesting for me, I think it's perfectly fine. I think it yeah, there was some friction at the start, certainly. Yes, thanks, Dina. Yeah, I also got engaged during the pandemic. I also have to think about a eventual move to Australia and how I'm going to do it for the pandemic. And with there's basically I'm doing all the changes in a sort of a 2-year period where a pandemic is also happening. So you know, I'm sort of processing all of that. So I think for me, virtual playtesting is yeah, definitely hard at the start. I definitely appreciate those who have difficulties with it. I think I think now it's a little bit easier. I think there's a lot of good guides out there. I think other people more learned than me have made great, videos or manuals and things that have really, I think will really help folk find the best option for them. I agree that everything's different. I started on Tabletopia, moved to Tabletop Simulator. Now Screentop seems really interesting, so I will try it out. And yeah, I would just say I don't think anyone is the one that kills all the other ones yet. I don't think one has emerged, and I think different designers will have different preferences, as we're seeing in the chat. I think, which is good, and they serve their purpose, And I think we're all on the board that yes, we'd love to be doing in-person design. I think for me personally, that the difficulty is that for so much of the creative process, like sitting in front of a computer doesn't trigger that in me. There's something I don't quite know how to like put it, but there is something about stimuli from just being in a room with people outside of the kind of like direct thing of like playtesting a game and the mechanics of doing that and the tactile nature of it. But just the whole point of like going out and going to a different location and talking with people, all of that feeds into my creative process, I think. And without that, I think that side has been a lot harder. I don't find the playtesting necessarily difficult. I find it draining. I find it, when you work already in front of your computer during the day, I'm probably, I guess, one of the few, out of all of us, I probably have the most like other work, I guess, maybe in front of the computer at the moment, possibly, I'm not sure. But so it's just when you have, you're like, you work all day and then you're like, oh, great, I get to playtest it at 8 p.m. and I get to sit in front of my computer for another 3 hours, just what I want, So I think for me, it's been trying to rationalize what I really need to do and actually kind of just doing less playtesting, to be perfectly honest. That's what's happened. I've actually never been someone who, it's sort of funny, like the advice to everyone is like playtest, playtest, playtest. And I suppose I've taken on the mantra a little bit from other part of my life, which is like work smarter, not harder. And where can you get the most out of that limited time you might playtest, so you don't have to devote lots and lots of time in front of the computer. And so, maybe I've chosen a few styles of games which are a little bit easier to design, that I don't have to playtest as much. I've focused on narrative games where a lot of the work is about creating content rather than necessarily playtesting it. And yeah, I think that's kind of been I've definitely refined what I've designed, which is partly to do with the technology and partly to do with, I find it difficult, creatively it's been difficult on the other side. So I'll only see, it's hard to know in the end, I don't know. This is a more sort of general question, not even to do with pandemic necessarily, but, I think as creative people, it's hard to quantify how productive you're being, because it's,
it goes
design
in
is
leaps
not,
and bounds. It's not.
Yeah, it's not a linear process. It's not a like I have a 9-month project and I'm gonna, we work for 9 months and this is what we're gonna get done, and so that's a personal thing for every creative person, I think, and obviously this just adds into that, because obviously playtesting is the main mode you do to get from A to B, but it changes how that goes. Anyway, that's a random selection of thoughts. I'm not sure how cogent it was, but yeah.
No, there's definitely a lot to unpack, and I agree with Dina, what I wrote is it's all about what energizes you and what sparks creativity, and that's what I get. When I was talking about with David Turksey, and Turksey was talking about how other people do this kind of thing and then eventually get to the game, and Turksey has a very, in their own mind at least, a very, okay, that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to go straight there.
Have we checked he's not a robot yet? Has anyone done that? Like, has anyone?
I tried to check. I don't think he passed the Turing test, though. That's the trouble.
What's the test from Blade Runner? What's it called? What do they call it in that? Anyway. Yes. David's approach is an interesting one in terms of online, because I think certainly early on, I don't know if he does it now, but he just asked his fan base who would stick the stuff on the platforms for him. So I think that's something I haven't dared to try that. But if you can do that, if you get somebody else,
Kingmaker has a big fan base. Maybe you should try it.
Yeah, mate, to be fair, I have got. I mean, it's somebody else who's doing the Vassal module, because although I can code, I don't know Vassal. So somebody else is doing that. I'm very, very grateful for them for doing that. That's great.
I mean, Turksy is like, let's not make this a 5 minutes conversation about Turksy. I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that we are all quite similar in a lot of ways, and I kind of wish that maybe Turksy or Ian Brocklebank or Digby or someone who does do a lot more online testing.
Or Chris Backey, for example, I think would be someone.
Yeah. The Voice Camp test.
To be fair, I mean, I've play tested with online with Dave Turtsy as well, and he's very good at that. I mean, we play tested Defensive Procyon 3, which is his big 4-player asymmetric game, and that was on Tabletop Simulator, and that actually worked really, really well. So I think having people to do a very professional job in terms of putting stuff. I mean, my stuff for Kingmaker that's basically what I can do, and I'm not a professional in that sense in terms of the online platforms. But having somebody who really knows how to get the most out of those online platforms, upload the stuff for you, is obviously very, very productive if you're doing online testing, for sure. So if you know somebody like that, it's worth pushing that one. Yeah, persuading them.
Anyone. So Alex asks if anyone has used a combination of any sort of video chat and digital tabletop. I assume you mean like some digital tabletop, meaning a generic thing rather than a platform I've not heard of. I think this might be the best practice for getting physical reactions and body language. And let me just say that back when I was doing Friday playtests, the reason that we did, okay, let's have our video chats on, was because you could have that chat going on. And I know that Chris was working on a sort of social negotiation game, although it was very much made so that you could type to each other. But, you know, you'd see people's faces when they read your message, and then they'd like have a quizzical eyebrow, or they would laugh or something, and you'd get that joy of it. I think that, yeah, some people are doing that, and I did a wee bit of it as part of that Friday playtesting, and I mean, Alan and I, it wasn't a playtest, but all the time people on Twitch are playing games with video chat, so you can see the faces and you can see the board, so it is definitely possible. It is a bit more intensive on your processor. If you've got to have Tabletop Simulator and video chat, that's quite a bit. But
yeah, I was going to say that's been the main difficulty for me, is that we often have to turn off video if you're using Skype or Zoom, or, because you just crash the. Yeah, I'm still surprised at just how much CPU these take up, to be honest. But I don't know the backends. So.
I think that's the thing about Tabletopia and whatnot, as opposed to playing cards or screen top. And yeah, Nicholas is clearly able to manage it. So let's actually answer the question of comparing these different platforms. Rita, I know you've probably not used them all, but which ones have you used? And are there any that aren't listed? So Tabletopia, video chat, asynchronous things, Tabletop Simulator, cards.io,
Okay, I use Zoom very often. This is one of my favorite. I use Discord, and I hate Discord because there's so much information and it's so weird, and I don't know. I don't like Discord. I also use Skype or Studio Line, and yeah. And I also use Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator. I didn't have my own games there, but I playtest other games. So yeah, maybe I learn it. So this Friday I have a I have a 1 hour to learn tabletop simulator, so maybe then I use it, but I don't think so. I don't know. But I also played games on Board Game Arena and Yukata and so on. So,
But
yeah,
of course, for those ones, those aren't a platform for playtesting.
Yeah, but it's a good way for practicing online gaming. I don't know. So yeah, these are the things I used. So, but I think the problem is that, as Matthew said, when you use tabletop simulator or something like that, you have to put your camera off because it's getting too much energy, and that is the problem. Because in playtesting, it's very important for me to look at the faces and to see if they're having fun or what they're doing with the game, and this is missing. So usually, if it's good for the game, I play test with Zoom, and I put the camera on the game, and so I can look at the faces from people. Yeah.
There's a few good pointers from chat. Firstly, Nicholas mentioned specifically Tabletopia, because what happens with Tabletopia is because Tabletopia is in the browser, apparently it's using a bit less CPU, presumably as long as you don't have too many windows open. And that's with an 8-year-old laptop. And Alex mentions the other thing, which is you can split it across devices. If you have an expensive smartphone that can handle a video chat, then do the video chat on your phone. And you can maybe see the other people on that, and then you can have the tabletop simulator or whatever on your computer.
So I have to say, we tried Tabletopia with Zoom, but it doesn't work. So
my views on this are a bit mixed. The thing about Tabletopia is it's free for users, so that I've got a subscription, but I can get people to use Tabletopia who don't have to pay. Tabletop Simulator, they have to buy it. Everybody has to buy Tabletop Simulator in order to use my game, which is a barrier for some. So that's another reason why I went Tabletopia first rather than Tabletop Simulator. I was wondering whether anybody's actually used video plus physical components. I mean, I've seen it done. The trouble is, video doesn't tend to work.
Isn't that how you and Matthew and I started?
We did that one time on that stream. But I was thinking for other things, not just for streaming. I was wondering if anybody had used that. I mean, I did some of that for wargaming, but the video tends to be not terribly great if you've got a fairly large table to show. But the other thing I actually used StreamYard. I used StreamYard for recording and Tabletopia, and that actually worked well because you can then record. You've got the whole. I mean, obviously you could do that on Zoom as well, I think. But can you? With StreamYard, you can get, because we can get, as you can see here, we can get 4 or 5 people, and you can get the faces, and you can go back and replay the video and see what people's reactions are at various stages. So that's one way of doing it. StreamYard plus Tabletopia, you could have the window of Tabletopia in there as well, the ship sharing screen. You can see the expressions and the game state at the same time. So that's one thing that I did experiment with. The only problem is that it does make big demands on CPU, and some people found their computers collapse. So.
But Ellen, isn't it a lot of work when you play test it online and then you have to watch it again, the whole play testing?
Oh, yes. Well, yes, you don't have to watch the whole thing again. You can pick up particular little bits you can pick up if you need to. To be fair, I tend to make copious notes. I tend not to go back too much on the videos, but theoretically you can. If you've got a lot of time, you could do. So that's one thing to try, I guess. Yeah, but I do miss the physical stuff. I think going back to what Matt said, I agree with what Matt said, which is that having the physical game really helps with creativity. I hadn't realized quite how significant that was until Matt mentioned it. That what I tend to do is if I'm playtesting something that somebody else is. If I'm playtesting War of the Three Sanchos or the Castle War, which I'm currently working with Rob and Dave on, I've actually made physical copies. So although it's on screen, they're both on screen top. I've made physical copies because I've obviously instinctively thought, no, I need a physical copy in order to work out what's going on. So that's reinforcing what Matt says. It's that physical, having the components in front of you, so you can scribble on the cards or whatever. That's really quite important for creativity. So there's limits to this online stuff for sure.
I'm not sure if I have that much to add, really. I've used Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator. They both have their positives and negatives. I will say that for pitching to publishers, I think having a digital prototype in one of those is far easier than having a physical prototype that you then film. Firstly, because some publishers now are more proficient with actually joining the thing digitally, and that's usually an easier way for them to kind of see things. But you could also just share the screen if they don't want to do that. And usually it's easy to manipulate elements and things like that, and it's a little bit more efficient. So, yeah. So, and in some ways, it's certain collaborations work well with having a digital prototype and being able to update that and easily share it. And you know, if you make a mod in Tabletop Simulator, especially, I mean, I think that for me is in the end is one of the things, because I collaborate a lot. It makes Tabletop Simulator a lot better because it's very, very easy to essentially promote someone else, and then they can save it locally, save a prototype locally. So it's easy to share, or you can make a workshop and they can download it and things like that. Whereas, you know, for Tabletopia, it's, I mean, in some ways you could just do a link in it, but it's different. And we have talked about, I guess, costs and things like that. For the playtest side, yes, of course, Tabletopia is easier, but for the designer side, Tabletop Simulator is far cheaper. You know, the whole subscription. I mean, and Screenshot is free, I think. All right, I'm sad that Tabletopia is as expensive it is for designers. I feel like they are missing something there, because I feel like they don't have to. I'm not saying they have to make it free, but you know, I think anything that is a subscription service is just, you know, I think it's, you know, there are a few other prototyping things to like make digital. There's like a GameCraft service, for example. Again, they're asking for a subscription model, and I just don't think they understand how you know that's just is actually quite a significant cost to a designer. Is, you know, you're not necessarily making that much money. So these sort of ongoing costs.
Yeah, I'm only doing that because I'm a publisher. Really, if I was doing it just as a designer, I wouldn't pay for Tabletopia. It's too expensive.
Anyway, yeah, so I don't know if that answered it. Yeah, I didn't have much to add, I guess.
I mean, it feels like what I'm sensing from this conversation is it keeps coming back to that sense of what everyone's got to forge their own path. And who's it, Marie Kondo, who's like, okay, what sparks joy, and throw it away if it doesn't spark joy. It's like we can do that with our own lives in terms of activities. Like if it doesn't have a use, like does it have a use, and you know, is there something that it's leading to? But also, is this the most efficient use of your time? Because I've kind of decided that right now I'm going to take a step back. And yeah, when you mentioned pitching, so I pitched to a company and I had my phone, so they were using Microsoft Teams, I think it was, and then I loaded that onto my phone, so I kind of had the cards for strange animal noises, and I said, oh, this is a fun game, we would like to pitch it internally, which is a good sign. But I never got that onto any online platform. But I think that it's, again, what are you willing to do? If you are coding inclined, then absolutely. If you are happy to be a bit more at the screen, then you can start playtesting other people's things. Let me do all these comments. Aquasilus says, if Tabletopia could sort out how cards are grouped or handled, I would be much more likely to use it. Robert, I saw video physical components used in a games demo at online UK Games Expo. I played Ticket to Ride Amsterdam. It kind of worked, but the game had to be played with all open information. And I've definitely seen that on a bunch of streams with, yeah, I actually want to say Ravensburger. I think it's Ravensburger who keep having those streams going on. Yeah, kind of concern with Robert just searching for playtesters. It's okay, it's easier to find playtesters, but now is the fear of spamming and kind of telling too many people about it. And how do we, I think that's maybe the final question that we should really come up to before we finish. And it's nice to have a niche within Discord dedicated to your stuff, something I really appreciate from the recent game jams. So yeah, having a wee channel that's about a specific thing. Screentop allows you to share the project's editing environment too, so you can collaborate that way. That sounds really cool. And there is a free option for Tabletopia. Yes, correct. You only get one game, which means that if you want to use it for playtesting, then you've got to, okay, delete that and put up a new thing. Or if you're playtesting multiple games at a time, it's not really practical. It is doable, but they make it deliberately so that it's not the easiest thing to do. And yeah, so it is correct. It is one game and two setups. You can have the one game. So theoretically, and I said this to Mark Harris, that when Mark Harris came on, I cheekily said, well, so theoretically, if I wanted, what's to stop me having Kitty Cataclysm and the L deck, and then the two setups, one of them shows one deck, one of them shows the other, and Mark said, well, you could do that, but we're not going to have it as a published game. But if you wanted to do that for playtesting, you could. And yeah, you could do that for playtesting, but it's still only just two games, potentially, until you swap around everything. It's only allowed me to do one game, says Nicholas Strachey. It was quite frustrating after learning the whole thing because I can't afford to keep using it. I'm trying to learn Screentop precisely because it's free and not as limited. Weirdly, the two setups, yeah, exactly what I'm talking about. You can literally swap out all the boards and everything. Yep. And I think I was also exhausted after 72 double-sided cards. In terms of not being spammy, this is why I enjoy the playtest Discord. There's the expectation that if people play your games, you also give time back to the group playing other people's games. I really enjoy that. So sometimes I end up testing a game that I really enjoyed and I want to play again. And so, yeah, a way of learning from other people. Other than, yeah, that, if we're going to have our final question before I say, okay, do you have any final things to talk about? Chasing playtesters in a digital age. My situation is either I only do it as a game jam or as a stream, or yeah, actually, since when was it? May, I want to say. I think I've basically only playtested in scenarios where I've been streaming or pitching. So I can't think. I think that's, except for my pitches, literally every playtest I've done has, except for in person with, you know, people in real life, every digital playtest I've done has been literally public. So I don't, is my short answer. Rita, how do you find playtesters?
So I first thing, I ask my usually playtesters if they're online. The second one is, yes, on Discord you can find playtesters, or with some Facebook groups. There are some Facebook groups for board gamers prototyping, and you can ask if someone has time or want to playtest. Finding playtesters for online playtesting isn't that hard for me, I think. Yeah.
Because so you delved into your existing fan base.
Yes.
Alan? I mean, I know you have an
yeah.
existing Kingmaker fan base. But
So,
beyond
yeah,
that,
so Kingmaker was relatively easy because I think I initially just I just put something on Board Game Geek and said I'm developing a new Kingmaker. Anybody want to play test? I always ask them to get in touch with me specifically by email, and I try to be both open and welcoming, but also fairly selective somehow, because I really want people who will engage and respond. And I've done kind of more of a blanket approach before with other games, and it hasn't really worked. So I have a group of people I know will give me really good feedback, and over time you can work that out and adjust the playtesting group accordingly. But I know I've got a fantastic group of Kingmaker playtesters. They're very good. A mixture of shall we say older folks and also younger players, are all really, really keen to give good feedback. It's been good and very thoughtful, analytical people as well. So yeah, I mean, really, for Kingmaker is a bit of a special case because we have effectively got a mini development team. Really, I almost consider myself the kind of lead developer for Kingmaker rather than the designer. Well, I'm not the designer because I'm developing it. But for the other games, I use people I already know mostly, and for blind testing, I'll call for other playtesters through Facebook groups or other groups. That's the way I'd normally do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a Cambridge playtest group that's sort of gone digital. We have a Discord, and most of my testing has been kind of through that and through kind of existing UK networks. So I haven't really done on the kind of open playtesting, virtual groups. To be honest, that echoes that I'm not a. I should do it more, but even in person, I wasn't ever much of a fan of it wasn't comfortable for me to playtest with people I didn't know. Essentially, so that's sort of echoed in the digital side. But thankfully, that UK network is still there, so it's sort of easy enough to chat with them. Yeah, so if I've wanted to playtest, it's been through that, and that's fine.
and I've just pasted in firstly the Cardboard Edison link, which they've got a list of all the playtest groups on Discord. And yeah, check them out. Check out what times they operate at, and it's really nice. The other one is, I think this was set up by Senfunglim, which is Playtesters Wanted, the Facebook group, where it's just the expectation again is that on this Facebook group, even though it's not micromanaged, if you've got 5 people playtesting your thing for an hour, then you playtest other people's thing for 5 hours. And so you give as much as you take. And both in the Discord groups and in this Facebook group, that's how it works. I mean, yeah, that is always the normal situation with peer-based groups, I guess, until you've got a situation where there's, I don't know, it's a little bit strange kind of talking about, as soon as things become unequal, there's a sense in my mind that, okay, this is a little bit ticky. But it's undeniable that if someone's able to entice someone else by saying, hey, this is a special thing. Someone said to me, hey, I want to make a special deal of my 100th playtest. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. I will be the person in your 100th playtest if you want to celebrate it somehow. That sounds like fun. I mean, it's ended up being just a playtest, but I thought that they were going to do some sort of special recording or something for it, but that hook got me involved. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, well, let's check this out. And someone else was. Sometimes it's okay. I am a designer, and other people really love my stuff because I am Dave Turksey, or hey, I'm working on this property, and people really love my stuff because I'm working on Kingmaker, or you know, if you've got people who are, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, unequal relationship doesn't have to be icky. It has, but as long as everyone's getting something out of it, it might be that the playtester's getting a bit of joy from it, as long as you're upfront with what's going on. But no, there's definitely, we've talked about the specific Discord, dipping into your own fan base, and one thing that we touched upon very briefly was collaborators. If you've got a collaborator, then you are going to be able to playtest more easily. Like, Rita, we're working on a game tomorrow, and the fact that you and Tiz and I are working on this game on stream, and I'm like, yeah, it's fun. Hopefully people are going to enjoy that stream, and we will... It is tomorrow, isn't it? I need to double check. Oh yeah,
yes, it is.
I mean, I just have to be in the same place every day, so I just know that I'm doing something at 10 a.m. UK time each day. But yeah, so Tiz and Rita and I, and because there's 3 of us working on the game, it means that we are going to be able to playtest it together. Same with, you know, as soon as Mafia and Alan, you know, and like once you've got bits of time, and it's like, okay, we'll be able to playtest it even if it's just the 3 of us. And I think that's true, whether it's real life or whether it's digital, that's a way of having a playtester, because then you're suddenly both invested. Other than that, is there anything else that anyone wants to say? Let's go clockwise whilst I listen. Actually, I should probably catch up with the chat. I think yeah, people hating double-sided cards on Tabletopia is a headache, apparently. And yeah, Nicholas saying that what Alan said, we've not really delved into much of these platforms, but I think it's worth, just for someone who doesn't know, Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator are very similar, except that Tabletop Simulator has to be purchased by everyone involved in the game. Tabletopia has to be, if you want, it's technically free, but if you want to have more than one game at a time, you have to pay a subscription cost. And then Screentop and is a bit more programming based. It's easier to run. Playingcards.io, it's basically just for cards. I don't think you can even have cubes or anything there, but it's, from what I hear, really easy to get stuff in there. And of course, you do always have the choice of using video chat, maybe showing the components, or asynchronous playing, where by asynchronous I mean something like what Alex did so well, where you click the little button for a roll and write, where it says, okay, first roll, these are the dice that you roll, second roll, these are the dice that you roll, and everyone's playtesting, and at least that way you can compare scores, but it's asynchronous and actually using a blog, or you could talk about the scores position on the board. Even if it's a more interactive game, you could go back to chess by mail sort of thing and just have your own little board on a grid, as long as you can use grid references.
Yeah, don't forget Vassal as well. Although you.
Oh yes, please tell us about that.
Well, Vassal is vassal.org. It's primarily a wargaming site, and there's hundreds of wargames on Vassal. But they're all coded by people who know how to do that kind of thing. So software development. I don't think it's necessarily particularly difficult to do if you're a coder, but it does require coding. But that gives you 2D stuff, and it's got standard things like hex grids and squares and other such things. And you can upload assets as part of what you're doing to make it look like the original game if you're doing somebody else's game, or you can it's a similar type of thing to Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia, but you do have to code the actual game. So you can put as much or as little of the actual rules in the module that you want, but it's 2D, which is an advantage and a disadvantage. So yeah, I haven't directly done any coding, but I've used it quite a lot.
I mean, other than the exciting dice, or if you want to make the, in my opinion, misguided step of doing dexterity in virtual environments, I feel like 2D is always better.
Yeah, I was contemplating 3D for miniatures wargaming, which would be quite an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there. Okay, so
I just wanted to say, you posted a few Facebook groups in German. The prototype group is called Brettspiel Prototypen Forum. So.
Okay. Would you be able to type that up in the private chat and I will paste it to everyone?
Yes. I try.
Thank you very much. Let's go round, and I know we've not exactly reached any conclusions, but Matthew, do you have anything more that you want to say about online playtesting, or playtesting when you can't find people to be with you physically?
Not much to add. I think it's just the normal general overarching point about sort of changing, like, mentally how you approach it. I think that being both from the sort of designer and playtester side, just being a bit more understanding both for yourself and the people you're working with, I think is we're all tired at the end of the day or in front of computers. So I think it's just the norm. I think everyone's adapted to, and I haven't had any really bad experiences, but I think, take care of yourself.
Taking care of yourself seems like a really good piece of advice, no matter what.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think also be very tolerant of things going wrong. Be flexible. What I try to do is always get people to log in at least a quarter of an hour before we theoretically due to start, because there are always technical problems in my experience. But be very tolerant of those, because one thing I found, and maybe I'm just lucky, but 99% of my playtesters are very, very tolerant of technical glitches wherever they may occur, and so we get around things and have backups. Have backup things. For example, if I'm running something on Zoom and TTS or whatever, I'll say, look, there's a backup Discord which we can use if something goes wrong with Zoom, or exchange mobile numbers with people, so that if everything collapses, you can at least communicate via text message. That's quite useful. Just basic good communication, extra connections is useful, because there's nothing worse than somebody dropping out and you can't actually find out what the hell's gone wrong. So that's useful.
Yeah, having a wee mobile phone or Facebook, something that will work on the phone even once the computer's gone down, seems really great. Rita, anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
So I would say I'm very happy that the coronavirus is now and not 10 years ago, because if it's 10 years ago, we could do nothing. So because online it wasn't that good, or it wasn't. So maybe it's luck for us that it is now and not 10 years before. I don't know.
100%, and that's something that I keep saying, that we are so fortunate to have the internet and to be able to have this sorts of communication, to be able to have all the telecommunications that we have. And let's not take the internet and video chats and just mobile phones, frankly. The fact that I can go out, I mean, it's incredible. I can go out on my mobile phone, talk to my friend who's in Germany and just, you know, chat to them. And it's quite incredible in a lot of ways. So yeah, that brings us pretty much to the end of the show. And so let me find my wee banner. Let's recap and wrap up. We have talked about a lot of stuff, not all of it to do with playtesting, admittedly. We started talking about Facebook groups in general and yeah, being proud that so many people are making content in a massive playtest group for Airfix battles. Talking about tennis and umpiring and some people who are literally quite tall. And getting dogs despite people telling you, hey, don't get a dog, or cycling down and having that journey despite people saying, hey, don't do that. About boxing, about basketball, about cat pictures, about playtesting, about Rogan Josh, Everdell, pictures, the Spiel des Jahres, the Czech version of the Oscars, magic beans. What would you get with your magic beans? We settled on the old traditional health, wealth, and happiness. We talked about the brilliant things, why playtesting online is brilliant. That it's because we can surprise our offspring. And I know that sounds quite specific, but genuinely, if you're making something for someone else, if you playtest it with people in real life, they'll be like, oh, wait, you're playtest. They'll know what you're up to. But if you're playtesting it online, they don't know what you're up to. So then it's a surprise gift. So for this one, if you're making a surprise gift for someone, that is quite a nice way of online testing. Having the distance, being able to test with people who are hundreds or even thousands of miles away. That's incredible. The fact that we can do it, access to people, not having to do all that prototyping, reaching your primary markets, as Alan said, getting ready for the online pitching, thinking about the accessibility, the fact that, yes, there's a barrier. Okay, we were talking, and I keep saying this, that's the thing, like, the downside of it all is that for some people, it just doesn't energize us. It doesn't spark the same creativity. And we don't want to have to take that technological barrier of doing the coding. But if you're willing to take that step, then you don't have to do the cost. You can do it at a time that's suitable to you, because there's probably someone out there in the world who's up for it. We talked about different platforms, whether it's video chats or one of the 3D options or one of the 2D options, or yeah, just, and we talked about how you find that playtesters. There's the existing fan bases for your game, but that is again coming from a place of privilege. And if you don't have that, then definitely check out all those Cardboard Edison links. Let me actually find that Cardboard Edison link once more to put it up. So if you're watching on YouTube after this, because that's only that sometimes is difficult to find, definitely check out that link. And yeah, check out Facebook groups where it will be about reciprocal testing, let's call it. We talked about having collaborators. If you've got you and someone else working on a 2-player game, you are always going to have a playtester as long as you're both available. But to summarize it all, when I asked, what are your final thoughts? And I love this. It's about taking care of yourself, being ready to forgive yourself. You don't have to be perfect, because kindness isn't just about being kind to others. It is also about being kind to yourself so you can do stuff. And also, yeah, very practical from Alan, just having that secondary communications method. That was it. And then I started recapping, and then Alex mentions we'd probably just be watching Charlie Sheen talking about his tiger blood and winning. I only saw the memes, and that's anyway. So I have no idea what's going on with that. I think that's it. If you want to check me out, I am stuffbybez.com, stuffbybez.blogger.com, twitter.com/stuffbybez, instagram.com/stuffbybez. You can check me out every day for the next 93 days on twitch.tv/stuffbybez at 10 a.m. UK time, and all the old episodes are on youtube.com/stuffbybez, and my Discord is at stuffbybez.com/discord, which will redirect you to the correct thing, because otherwise it's this crazy weird link that I wouldn't expect anyone to, remember or anything. But let's talk about all these other amazing people. Let's go clockwise, which I think means that it is Matthew. Where do you like to be found online?
Well, I'm sure you'll throw up things. Twitter is usually the easiest place, so I'm Wise Goldfish on Twitter, but I'm also streaming MT Dunstan on Twitch. And just a small shout out that we have a special stream this week at 7 p.m. GMT that Bez will be part of as well. We're going to be talking about being a game designer and streaming. This is sort of a newer thing. So that's Thursday evening, 7 p.m. And that's over at Amaria Kills Twitch stream. So check out I've got the announcement on Twitter, and but we'll all be hosting it, I think. So even if you're on Stuff by Bez, I'm sure you'll be able to find it.
Yeah, I'll make sure to set that up in the morning if I haven't done so before.
Well, you can even just start it while we'll just remind everybody at the start, host on your own channel now.
Oh yeah, it's like the if you type in the hashtag /raid, it does the raid and the host at the same time on Twitch, I think.
Yeah, when you raid, it always hosts as well, yeah.
And you can raid even if you're not live. You can just raid from the chat. But so that is Matthew Dunstan. Next, clockwise, we've got Surprise Terror Games.
I'm Bentham Fish on Twitter. I'm Alan at surpriseterrorgames.co.uk on email. Email is usually best for me. And my fortnight, my book of the fortnight is this one, Philip Sabin's Simulating War, Studying Conflict Through Simulation Games. If you haven't got this and you're a war game designer, get it. It's very good. Phil Sabin, was professor of war studies at King's. There's also a groups.io group for that as well, if you want to discuss it a bit more. So that's my plug of the fortnight.
I'm enjoying this sort of book of the fortnight section. And finally, we've got Rita.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, but the most stuff I post about board games is on Instagram. They're Rita on Fire.
I just realized that I messed up the links, so I'm going to paste them. Okay, there we go. Now they're separated.
Yeah. So I like Instagram much more than Facebook now. So
yeah. And thank you for that link there, Alex. And so that is it. We have chatted. Hopefully this has been of some use. I want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching. Thank you to everyone here. Alan, what did you want to say?
Thank you to Alex for your Kingmaker feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. People are awesome, and I want to quickly and try and make sure that I finish in the next couple of minutes. So let me say over to you. What are you up to? You can share anything you want to. So in the comments, if you have something that you're excited to share, whether it's a hope or an ambition that you're building up for, or whether it's just something that you're genuinely looking forward to doing, or whether it's exciting or boring or serious or frivolous, let us know. Let's go from the let's go clockwise from me, Alan.
Oh, frivolously, this afternoon I'm playing No Retreat Russian Front, and I've cut the Germans off at Stalingrad. But
Nice. Rita.
yeah, I'm going to playtest. Woohoo! In real. So with one person only, but it's real.
Okay.
Very exciting.
Very jealous, very jealous. Yes. I'm just gonna have some lunch. I think that's my next step. So I'm focusing on that. Very exciting.
I am also going to have some sort of breakfast / lunch. I had a couple of things. I might, I'm going to be organizing a couple of discussions with people and doing a wee bits of reading, and yeah, nothing major. And Robert is still on leave from work. Ooh, this sounds exciting. And I actually want to, am I allowed to give a special shout out to the project that you are doing with me, Robert? Let me know if I'm allowed to talk about that. And I mean, I know that I'm the kind of publisher in this situation, but Rita, you were about to say something more.
Yes, I'm very happy that we playtest tomorrow. So if you want to join us tomorrow, feel free. And Bess, I send you this evening. I send you the sheet to print out for tomorrow.
I do not have any printer up here, but I've learned how to make marks on the computer.
Okay.
I'll be doing that. And so, yes, Robert is. So I am working on. I'm going to call it L3. So is this? Yeah. So L1 was the original typeface. L2. This is very far from the final. This is. I would be embarrassed if this was the final graphics. But this is, it gives you an idea of this. L3 is drawn by someone completely different. It's going to be Paull, which is a game that I made. It's a 2-player cooperative words game. I'm very proud of it. And I know that Rado enjoyed it quite a bit, but Rado likes lots of stuff, to be fair. But no, I'm proud of it. And that's going to be what I call L3. And Roberts is getting that ready for Board Game Arena. And so I'm really excited by that. I have been advised not to share it with anyone. Even once it's working, we're not going to share it until the graphics are near final. So I've been advised by someone that I massively respect. So this is the tease of the fortnight. Let's call it that. The tease of the fortnight. So that is... For next streams, of course, check out that channel. Tomorrow, tonight, I am playing Nano Muckle at 8 PM UK time. So if you fancy a words game, but you've only got literally 15 minutes, join us. We will finish within that, and then we'll play it about 2 or 3 times, and then we will play Micro Muckle, which is about twice as long. And then tomorrow, I'll be making games and trying to maybe try out a few variations with Rita and his first day, drawing some more pictures in the morning, and then on Omaria Keel's Twitch. I need to change that and get the thing there. That is in my public stream platform, Frenzy Friday. You know what? Check that thing. Share, spread the word. If you are here on Twitch, then I am going to put in the raid command to raid our friend Idol Michael, who... Have you ever met Michael, Rita?
Michael? Which
Michael Fox of Halb Games.
No.
So I was going to say 3 of us have met Idol Michael. Okay,
no.
So, but one day you might, when Essen happens again, and then you can meet Michael, and then you will have the privilege of meeting Idol Michael. But anyway, and... Thank you, Robert. That's super exciting. And this is the tease to the nth degree. So not only are we teasing Paull, but we're teasing the fact that Robert is going to do more big things in the future. Not necessarily with me, but with completely different people. And and so that is the end. So, yeah. Alan?
Yes.
Any final words?
Hello. No, I'm very happy. I'm looking forward to lunch as well now. So let's all go to lunch. Hurrah!
Okay.
Yes,
Rita?
lunch.
Matthew?
Have a great day, everyone.
Okay.
Have a fantastic day.
Bye. bye, bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye.
Bye.
This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, hello, Hal. And bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. That is basically it. Okay, I will end the broadcast. Bye.